Time to make some magic. Here we go. Hello, friends. How are you guys doing? Happy Monday. Happy Manly Monday, actually. Today's really exciting because not only is it Monday, it's Manly Monday, and this is a brand new web series from Your Other Brothers. It's called Manly Monday, and today is the premiere episode. My name is Tom, by the way. Maybe I should have started off introducing myself. For those that don't know, I'm one of the co-founders of Your Other Brothers. I'm the site editor, and I'm really excited to be doing this bi-monthly. Is it bi-monthly or bi-weekly? It's one of those. But twice a month, every other Monday, we're going to come to you live from our studio here in Asheville, North Carolina, the Jewel of the Blue Ridge. Manly Monday, I'm going to tell the origin story for that, so stay tuned in a second. But essentially, it's going to be some story time, some scripture reading, a challenge for growth and moving on from our struggles and the things that connect us, maybe in a more negative sense. And we're just going to pursue growth together as we tell stories and we have discussions. And there's a fruit fly. That was unfortunate. Dang, fruit fly. Messed me up. At the end of this episode, also, stay tuned for a State of the Yacht. We'll talk about our recent podcasts, recent blogs, recent comments, basically anything that has to do with Your Other Brothers in the last couple weeks. We will talk about it. We'll also open up our mailbag and see what you guys have been sending us recently. And so it should just be a fun time of connecting, bonding, and starting off a week together. I wanted to give the origin story for Manly Monday because, believe it or not, and you can believe it or not, for all I care, this origin story goes back 3 years, and this little 2-word alliterative phrase may very well be the starting point for how Your Other Brothers began. Of course, if you go back to our origin story, finding all these other bloggers on Xanga, that's probably the true origin story for Your Other Brothers. But I wanted to demonstrate it visually so that y'all who don't know our origin story can know it. And if you want to read about it, you can go to yourotherbrothers.com/about and read our origin story. Essentially, all the bloggers on our site were essentially drifting all by ourselves. We were squirming through life, trying to figure out where to go and how to belong, how to reconcile our faith, our sexuality, and what we believe and how we live out our convictions. And so we were just all by ourselves, in this little world, inching along. And eventually we found this online community that was already there, this Xanga community. We found it on the internet by searching some sort of variation of Christians struggling with homosexuality or gay Christians or something of that nature. And we found the Xanga community. That's how I found Xanga back in 2008, basically a decade ago now, which is a depressingly long time. It makes me feel really old. But essentially, we found this community online, blogged for several years, at least I did, and more entered our fold as time went by. And we had this thriving little blogging community on Xanga, and it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. Made a lot of good friends there, and actually, I went on a road trip a few years ago and met a bunch of these guys in person. Nobody fell off a cliff in our time on Xanga. But anyway, when Xanga closed in 2013, it was hard on me, especially. I think it was hard on everybody, but I'm all about writing and telling out stories. And so when Xanga ceased operating in 2013, that was difficult. So for 2 years, though, 2013 to 2015, a bunch of the Xangans, aka people who write on Xanga, a bunch of the Xangans and me kept in touch very loosely, I will say, very loosely in a Facebook group, a secret Facebook group. And there was maybe 10 or 12 of us when it first started. And it was just a way to stay in touch. When Xanga shut down, we were still, friends in a loose sense. Most of us hadn't met each other. I met several of them. But yeah, it was just kind of a loose way to stay in touch. And it really wasn't, that Facebook group really wasn't utilized. And it wasn't until the spring of 2015 when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was miserable. This was after a 9-month road trip around the continent. And I was desperate because that year of living on the road, I connected with so many of these Xanga guys, other people who also wrestle with issues of faith and sexuality. I connected with so many people on the road that year, and it was the most intense, fulfilling year of community of my life. It just wasn't the same community. It kept changing every couple days. So that was the twist of it. But basically, when I was living in Charlotte and I stopped living on the road, I was miserable, and I needed something. I needed brotherhood. I needed community. And so I don't know, had this idea. This Facebook group wasn't really utilized. It was like a holding place for these 12 people who used to be super connected on this blogging network that doesn't exist anymore. And so, I don't know, I had an idea when I was just in the midst of loneliness and feeling cut off while living in Charlotte. Had the idea, why not try to stir some discussion in this group, have some conversations come back, and make something happen. And so, I don't know, I came up with this corny little phrase, Manly Monday. Every Monday, I posted something in the group, a discussion question to get things going. That was March 30th, 2015. And I don't know what would have happened had I never posted that, because once I posted that, I didn't have to post every single Monday. It would be like every Monday, another blogger, another guy would post a discussion question and get some really great, authentic, vulnerable conversations going in the group on matters of faith, sexuality, and masculinity. And it was beautiful to see our community kind of start to come back. And so that went for a few weeks and a couple months. And by the summertime, somebody suggested, why don't we all meet up? We're having such great conversations and story sharing. Why don't we all meet up together for a weekend somewhere? Because I had met most of them, but most of them, pretty much all of them, had never met each other. One thing led to the next, and you can see this on our About page and in our origin story. But eventually we all gathered together in a cabin in Tennessee and spent the weekend together, and it was because of that weekend that we decided to bring back our stories in blog form. And that's how Your Other Brothers was born. And this whole notion of Manly Monday is kind of it's part of the bedrock for how all of this came to be. So there you have it, Manly Monday. So the mission of Manly Monday, what we're going to try to do here every other Monday, every other week, is basically to promote growth and to challenge you, whoever you are watching, whether you've been following Your Other Brothers from the beginning, whether you've only listened to our podcast or only read our blog, or whether you're new and finding us on YouTube. Our goal is not only to commiserate with each other, and that's a great starting point. It's great to find other people who aren't alone in wrestlings with faith and sexuality and issues of masculinity. It's been a great starting point for our community. But much like our logo, if you notice our Your Other Brothers logo, we have one person, one boy, looking back from where we came, one standing in the present and pointing to our hope. And then we have another boy, another man, which we all too often forget. It's the one that's looking ahead and the one that's kind of leading where we're going. And this whole notion of we're in a boat or we're climbing a mountain or we're soaring in the sky, we're going somewhere. We're not stagnant. We're not staying still. We're not just commiserating in the past and our past struggles and stories. Like, those are powerful, and I believe in the power of story, and that God can use our struggles and shortcomings and utter disasters and failures for His glory and for His redemption. But let us not ever lose sight of where we're going. And that's the huge impetus for Manly Monday, is to rally you guys and to rally all of us, myself included, because I probably more than anyone else need rallying in my life. But I want to remember where we're going and where we're going together. We're not going alone, we're going together. And the whole notion of Manly Monday is to encourage that growth as we go and as we navigate these hard issues together. Let's grow together as a community, but let's also grow together individually. Let's grow as a man, and let's grow as a follower of Jesus as we pursue this growth together by sharing stories, and we'll probably laugh along the way too. We might cry along the way. It'll get serious, it'll get silly. And let's use all of those experiences together to grow and to, I don't know. I was on a roll in the train. You know how it goes. So a scripture that I was looking to in preparation for this first episode of Manly Monday, I think it kind of says it all about the mission of, particularly this video, but I mean this community at large. It comes from Hebrews 10:24 and 25. It says, "And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near." And so I hope videos like this can encourage you, whoever you are watching, and I hope we can encourage each other as well, as we all seek to be manly together. And that's kind of the discussion question for this group, is what does manly mean? Like, it's a cool, I use the word cool loosely. It's probably more corny than cool. Manly Monday, it's alliterated. At least it's got that going for it. But we talk about masculinity in this group a lot. And so what I wanted this first episode to be about is, what does manly even mean? I went to Google, which was really interesting for lots of reasons. But these are the two definitions that it came up with when you just do a Google search on manly. It says having or denoting these good qualities traditionally associated with men, such as courage and strength. And I love the example. You know, these example sentences, I wish I could get paid to write example sentences for vocabulary words in anything, whether it's on Google, whether it's on in textbooks for high school students. I would love this job. But I love their sample sentence: looking manly and capable in his tennis whites. What does that mean? I don't play tennis, so I don't know what that exactly means. But they have some synonyms: brave, courageous. This is synonyms for manly. Brave, courageous, bold, valiant, valorous, fearless, plucky. It's a good word. Macho, manful, intrepid, daring, etc. Heroic, gallant, chivalrous, swashbuckling. That's a good one. The other definition refers to an activity more than a person, and it's something that's befitting a man, especially in a traditional sense. And here's another sample sentence: the manly art of knife throwing. I've never thrown a knife. Does that make me not manly. So I guess the whole point of manly is that it can mean different things to different people. We did a recent podcast on labels and words and the power of words and the tricky nature of words, because words can mean different things to different people. And my definition of manly is most certainly going to be different from your definition of manly. Or maybe it's going to be very similar, but it might be some slight variation. And that's okay. I think our collective definitions can come together to create a really awesome quality that we're all striving for in this community, both as followers of Jesus, as men, as humans. It's also really interesting when you go to Google. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but when you search like any kind of, just any word that you want more information on, you want to know the etymology, you want to know the definition. A lot of times when you search a word on Google, they'll also give you a graph that shows the word's usage like over the centuries, decades and centuries. And it's like a little line graph that either goes up or down or up and down. So it was really fascinating to me. I was not expecting this. When you search manly on Google, there is a line graph starting from, I think, 1800. It starts way up here at the top. Like, this word was used a lot, apparently, in the year 1800 in books and literature and writing in the vernacular of the time. And then as it gets to the year 2000 and where we are today, like 2018, the word usage drops off like pretty dramatically. When you look at the graph, like it starts way up here and it ends way down here. I found that fascinating. I don't know what to do with that, but I'm wondering, if this whole notion of manliness and manly, if it's just losing its power, its effect in culture today. I don't know what to make of it, but I found it super fascinating. So all that to say, for me, when I think of what manly means, the first word that always comes to mind when I think of manly is someone who's responsible, someone who owns his decisions, someone who is responsible with what he does in all areas of his life, physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, and mentally. We talk about sperm counts here in the Your Other Brothers community, and if you're new, buckle up. Essentially just being responsible for your being and taking care of yourself, taking care of the ones that are close to you, the ones that are in your inner circle, the ones that are around you, your flock. And whether you're a husband, whether you have kids, certainly it would apply to them. If you're a husband or have kids, have a family, being responsible for their spiritual well-being, their physical well-being, etc. But even if you're not, even if you're single like me, I think you can have a responsibility for those that are around you in your immediate circle, exhibiting responsibility, exhibiting manliness, and owning the struggle, not running away. I think really it can be symbolized by not running away from something, but running towards something. And I recently wrote a book about that as well. The whole notion that you can face challenges and face struggles head on, conflicts head on. You don't have to run away. Run toward them instead. I think that's a manly person from my perspective. But I'd be curious to know what your definition of manly is. So please comment below on this video, or if you're watching or if you want to visit our website, you can go to yourotherbrothers.com/video and find this Manly Monday post and leave a comment on what is manly, what does manly mean to you. I'd love to see all the variations of responses. All right, so that's the meat of Manly Monday. Y'all chew on that. In the meantime, while you're chewing, we're going to do something I like to call the State of the Yob. State of the Yob. And we're just going to roll through all the aspects of our blog over the last week or two and just point out some highlights, some things that are worth noting. On our blog, one of our authors, Eugene, wrote a fantastic post, got a lot of traction, a lot of comments, a lot of stories, a lot of disagreements and arguments, which is also good. We love differing opinions and a good conversation. But he wrote a post called Let's Talk About Bro Cuddling. Bro Cuddling. And it was just basically his experience of physical touch with other men and how it was maybe not so healthy in one situation and how it's been much healthier in another. I encourage y'all to check it out if you have not read it already. One of our other authors, Dean, wrote a post called How My Porn Addiction Began, and super relatable. Gosh, porn is so prevalent. I don't know how kids today, there really is no way. If there's any deterrent for me to ever having kids, it's the notion that, oh my gosh, if I have a kid, if I have a son, or a daughter for that matter, but if I have a son, he's going to discover porn at some point, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I can put up all the safeguards I want, but ugh, it's just everywhere. So he writes a really vulnerable story about how his addiction began and how he discovered pornography. And then Corey wrote a fantastic post called Taking Back Authority Over My Identity, and it talks about his journey of sexual identity and just personality identity, owning who he is over the years. Really fantastic journey of growth, really inspired by his growth. And so you guys should check that out as well. Those are 3 of our more recent blog posts on yourotherbrothers.com. A recent podcast on labels, that was episode 28. For those that don't know, we have a podcast that we also do bi-weekly/bi-monthly. Twice a month, we do a podcast called the Yobcast. And our most recent one was on labels, particularly sexual identity labels. And it was, I mean, I probably say this more often than is warranted, but I'm legitimate, y'all, when I'm saying this, that this episode was one of my favorites that we've ever done, especially in recent memory. But honestly, out of 28 episodes, I would probably put this in my top 5 episodes. Favorite episodes. It was just, we had a great conversation. Sometimes there are lulls when we record these and we cut those lulls out, but this conversation flowed. It was me, Elliot, and Frank, one of our other authors, and we had a great conversation on sexual identity labels and semantics, interpretations of words. If you go to yourotherbrothers.com/podcast, you can read all the comments, as always, for any episode. And I made it clear in the episode that, our intention is not to attack. We just want to have a good conversation and talk about labels and the concept of judging other people and trying to figure out how to have fruitful conversation. Because what often happens when we talk about labels like gay and same-sex attracted or same-gender attracted or orientation or all these like heavy supercharged words is that oftentimes we can't even have a conversation or tell some stories from our lives or experiences with those words, our journeys with those labels, because we're just so fixated on how that word has impacted us and how we're either turned off or turned on by that word. And it's just super difficult to have conversations. And so our intention is never to attack anyone. If you're being respectful and you're commenting thoughtfully, like we want to exchange that same to you. We want to have a really fruitful, respectful conversation and talk about these things. And so with labels, I think the big takeaway from that is that we all come from our different faith backgrounds. We all have our different personalities. We all have our different experiences and exposures to all these different terms. And so let's try to get along by like, okay, you use a word and a label that triggers something in me that I don't like because of something that happened to me, but you're using it. So tell me more about that. Let's learn about the journey. And I hope that we can have that conversation more and not immediately go into shutdown mode. And really, I preach to myself with this because I'm a super judgmental person. It's one of my top 17 struggles. Like, it's clearly something that I struggle with. And I want to take more initiative and be more graceful and be more patient and listen more and hear more stories. And I hope we can all do that here at Your Other Brothers. All right, so to close the show, we're going to go into our mailbag, which this is going to be one of my favorite segments of every Manly Monday, I think. And essentially, we're going to look through our emails and like pluck out some interesting, inspiring excerpts from emails that people send us. And then people also send us snail mail, like physical mail, and we're going to get to that too. So this first one, we have and this is really like encouraging to me, and maybe it's not as well known to the people following Your Other Brothers, but we're all over the world now, y'all. We've been around for 2 years. We started in late 2015. And so after 2 years, this podcast, this blog, and hopefully now this video channel, it's making the rounds. It's going everywhere. And so we recently got an email from a podcast listener and a follower from Switzerland. Switzerland, on the other side of the world. I've never even been to Switzerland. I would love to go someday. He gave this really awesome / hilarious email. I wanted to read an excerpt from that. So this listener from Switzerland, who is amazing, can't wait to get to know this guy more. But he said, first, I want to give you a feedback for the podcast in general. I absolutely love them. I've listened to all the episodes at least once, and I'm always waiting desperately for the next one to be posted. You and your stories have given me the courage to be more vulnerable with my story and to share it with more people, with more freedom. It has given me important thoughts and new perspectives to look at myself and the point in life I'm standing right now. Besides the main topics you discuss, I very much appreciate your introduction parts. I'm often listening to podcasts while traveling with public transport, and I can remember several occasions, I love this part, when I just had to laugh out loud because of what you were talking about. I earned some evil eyes because of that. Once I was walking home in the dark, and a couple was walking in front of me when I had to laugh, and they both turned around and stared at me. And I had to apologize for really scaring them. That brings me so much joy, the fact that someone in Switzerland is listening to our podcast and laughing at the things we're saying, in effect scaring the people around him. That brings me so much joy. So thank you to this person for sharing that experience. If you want to contact our show, there are several ways you can do that. First of all, if you follow our podcast and want to say anything to us about the podcast, any feedback for our show, you can email us at podcast@yourotherbrothers.com. If you have a more general response or story for our site in general, you can go to contact@yourotherbrothers.com. Send us an email that way. And if you're discovering us here, this is really exciting. Brand new email address. If you want to respond to something that you see on Manly Monday on our YouTube channel, you can send us an email now at manlymonday@yourotherbrothers.com. And we would love to hear from you through any of those channels. You can feel free to reach out. We always love hearing from the people who are reading and listening and now hopefully watching what we do. We'd love to hear from you and affirm that you are not alone and trade some stories. It's all I live for. I love stories so much. And finally, if you want to write to the show, if you are a handwritten letter person, which God bless you because we need more of you in this life. If you're a handwritten letter person and you want to write us something, you can. We have a P.O. box and you can send us mail of any kind, any variety. And that's P.O. Box 843, Asheville, North Carolina, 28802. I wanted to give a shout out to somebody. He's amazing. It's funny because we've been recording a podcast now for well over a year. And so I have completely forgotten what we talked about in our first episode, second episode, third episode. Apparently, though, in our early episodes, we put out a challenge that we love candy in this house. I mean, who doesn't? Particularly, one of my favorite things is peach rings. And Elliot, one of our other authors and bloggers, one of his favorite things is Swedish fish. And so we put it out there like, hey, if y'all want to send us peach rings or Swedish fish, please do. And so, oh my gosh, like literally over a year later, we go to the mailbox, open it up, and what do we discover inside but peach rings and Swedish fish? So somebody who is discovering our show for the first time hears our episodes that we recorded so long ago and decides to take it upon themselves to send us our favorite candy. That is, hold on, what am I saying? So that is inspiring. Thank you for sending us this. And thank you to everyone. We've had people send us really amazing things over the last year and a half, 2 years. And I just want to thank all the brothers out there, all the other brothers out there, for caring about us, believing in us, supporting what we're doing. If you want to support further what we're doing, you can go to patreon.com/yourotherbros. A fantastic community of people there who are all about the storytelling mission and this challenge toward growth and living out our convictions and walking this journey and navigating this journey together. So if you want to support us, we'd really appreciate it. It makes these videos possible, and it's going to make future video projects possible as well. If you're also following us on YouTube for the first time, welcome. Please subscribe to our show. You can subscribe to our channel, rather, and then you can like this episode as well. That helps us out in a huge way as we build this up and hopefully take it somewhere. Like I said, we're going somewhere. And I'm excited to see where this thing goes. So subscribe, like, and then comment either on the video or comment on our site. Again, talking about what does manly mean to you. So you all have a manly Monday, have a manly week up ahead. And for all my other brothers, this is Tom. I need a clever sign off. I haven't thought about this. How have I not thought about a sign off? Everybody needs a sign off. Have a manly Monday? That's too simple. I don't know. Okay, bye. Done.